Most World of Warcraft players don't take their jobs all that seriously, but I don't mean to say that they're disregarding their real lives to focus on World of Warcraft, at least not necessarily with how they spend their time, but with how they allocate their headspace. I do think that this is a very true statement. A thing that I believe is pretty normal to experience in World of Warcraft is running into office workers who are somehow working while on Discord and World of Warcraft throughout the day, which I'm not trying to put any value judgment on that. I'm just saying that that shows that they're not really taking their career all that seriously. It's a pretty rare situation where you are able to do that kind of stuff at work and you're not sacrificing the ability to either grow in your career or to go to another organization to earn more money where you're able to be more challenged. And I think a lot of people who end up really into video games, they are either consciously or unconsciously making a decision to not focus that much on a lot of the traditional stressors that real life gives people. Like, I remember when I started playing in 2019, I took forever to graduate college because I'm a fucking moron, and also because I started when I was 20, and I didn't get my first real job until I was 25, and then I had to travel across the country and I started working for Microsoft on the Xbox. And I was working like 50 to 60 hours a week, 60 during holiday seasons because manufacturing scheduling for Xbox, and then maybe 50 for the rest of the year. And I was playing World of Warcraft like 50 hours a week as well, which might sound impossible, but I was playing at work quite often. But at the very start of this, I wasn't as serious about World of Warcraft. And I would say, a little bit of a dream or an expectation that when I graduated college and I got a tech job at a high performing company, that I'd be surrounded by high performing people that either bought into the vision of improving the lives of like the end user, or that it would at least be passionate about trying to generate as much revenue for Microsoft as possible, because I thought, at least that's an optimization problem that could be interesting and I could show up to work every day and try to have all of my actions oriented around that. But what I found was that at work, those aren't the actual things people are after. At I think most office jobs in the world, there is so much separation between what is productive and the actual people making decisions that it's very easy to kind of blend in or to build a career around politics, or perhaps, and this is basically politics, to build a career around optimizing the optics of your work instead of actually doing things. And this drove me fucking insane. I was really upset about it. It was at the start of COVID, and I kind of just gave up on caring about my job. I was like, okay, whatever. You want to pay me $200,000 a year to fucking do nothing? Great. Game on. I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to just be in the fucking office. That way people can see me there. I'm not going to do anything that's actually going to increase my productivity or my team's. I'm going to focus on World of Warcraft, because that's a place where it felt like I had more control, because you go through education like when you're a child, and you're told what to do like every fucking second of the day, and then they give you assignments, they give you work to take home, and that's what I was up to until I was like 25. I had a couple years where I was in the military in between that, which was much the same, life on rails, just do this. And people might tell you in your day-to-day interactions, rather it's work related or maybe it's volunteering or hanging out with acquaintances, people will tell you one thing but then do another. And I'm probably fucking autistic, because this shit drove me psychotic all the time. And then something I don't know, I felt like when I would play this game was that I could actually have a goal and I could build all my actions around that. So at some point, I decided that I wanted to get into speedrunning, and I was able to start making decisions that would improve the times of the group I was in. And I had a lot of control over it, and I could see the work I was putting in actually change things around me in my guild. And that felt really, really good. And in some ways, I think people could see the idea of being in like a big job and it's supposed to be important, and then just deciding that you're not going to give a fuck, as that I was like running from responsibility or something. And that's how I felt about it too for a really long time. I would say I almost felt like that until I met some guys in my current guild. Like there's one dude that played a little bit of a bigger part than a lot of other guys that I've ran into in changing my mind on this. And I told him how I felt about my job, and then he gave me a story on his end about how he worked as like a line employee somewhere, and then he got into management. And the management role created all this stress and people problems and nonsense, and it wasn't worth the money. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And so he stepped back from the management position and took a direct report role instead, and stopped worrying so much about trying to like make as much money as possible or to optimize for the career or even trying to do their best by the company. And just they gave all that up, and they just accepted that their job is like a daily quest. It's just a thing that you can sink time into and pull money out of, and nothing else is guaranteed about it. Your level of control is extremely small, and there's just no reason to give it any more headspace than that. And I've been thinking about that for a while. And it's like I used to think that was so cringe. Like when I was younger, I thought that was so cringe because I had this weird idea that people are just going to magically think the same simply because they decided to work at the same place. Or the same craziness exists in guilds in the game where unless your guild is extremely serious, it's really unlikely people are going to magically think the same. But even if your guild is really serious, it's still actually extremely unlikely because amongst the top guilds, there's insane churn amongst the members and even the survivability of the organizations. I think a lot of people, they turn to video games because it gives them higher quality sources of dopamine in a lot of ways. Like I remember working at Microsoft, and some of the problems I solved before in the business were they're supposed to have barcode scanners that they used in the factory so they could scan all the individual components of an Xbox before putting them together. So that way you could know exactly where all the parts are. You could create basically a history of the production of every piece of hardware in the world. You can know where everything was manufactured, where it was assembled, everything, top to bottom. And they lost the barcode scanners because, and if you work in tech, this is going to fucking make you laugh, because the fucking goddamn program managers are retarded. I don't fucking know what it is. Like, I'm sorry if you're watching this and you're a program manager, but so many people who work that job are fucking stupid monkeys. And they somehow fucking lost 200 barcode scanners like 3 days before when we were going to need them for a manufacturing run in Christmas. Like, this would be a, like, 7-8 figure loss for the company if we couldn't solve this. And so I got tasked with trying to solve this problem, and I wrote a keylogger, like a fucking virus, because they had other barcode scanners and you could configure them as keyboards. So I was like, I'm going to write a fucking keylogger so that way it's impossible for this problem to ever happen again, because this means that any scanner in the whole world will work and we don't need to know how to use the actual API and do things the quote-unquote right way. We just put a virus on our own machines and it just scans the data that way. And so I remember I was working and I made this and tested it, and then we went with a more traditional solution instead, which is doing looking at the actual manual for one particular version of a barcode scanner and using that instead in the factory. And that was the most exciting time I ever had working at Microsoft, because it was just like all hands on deck, like team of like 3 or 4 engineers, like fix this fucking problem in 48 hours or there's going to be at least $10 million worth of damage to the fucking company. And that was so exciting. And I remember being so excited to work on it, and then I got my solution done, and my teammates, they each got theirs, and then we were going to pick which one to use. And everybody else, I could tell, just like didn't care. This just like another day, except this day was really long. And they just wanted to go home. And they hadn't really solved the root cause of the problem, which is that the organization is disorganized. And this is going to just be another thing that was going to happen in the future. And the dopamine I got from being like, I made a fucking virus and got paid for it, just like went away. Even though it felt really cool for a few parts of it. It would be nice, I think, if you could get a job and it could be oriented around a mission, like some vision given to you by some leadership figure. And you could just use that as like some guiding light to make all your decisions on a day-by-day basis. And you could like really invest in trying to push that forward as quickly as possible on whatever time frame you're given. But that's just not how the world is. And most people aren't going to do things that are entrepreneurial on their own. So you're not going to get the chance in your day-to-day interactions when it comes to like accomplishing things where like there's a real result, creating artifacts your success. It's just not an experience that most people are ever going to have. Unless you play video games. And then you can do it in stupid things. You can try to get pink numbers on Warcraft logs. Because when you go to work, you're evaluated on absolute gibberish. And so if you're not going to care there, you got to direct your attention to something else. I don't know. I guess it could be your family, your friends online, video games. It's all so crazy. I fucking love World of Warcraft. I wonder if I'd worked at a different company with a better mission, would I have cared a lot less about this game? Don't know. Guess I don't really care. Fucking love playing with people I play with. If you're on Night Slayer and you want to be kind of autistic in raid, but you have to get along with people, hit me up in Discord. Peace, guys.